Hello, my name is Sophie Kravitz, and this is the Super Green Dot Project. Super Green Dot is a website about working for yourself, loving what you do, and owning your own time. Today, I am here talking to Lynne Bruning, a fashion designer who uses e-textiles and paper computing in her work. Could we start by you telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
I think everybody in the weaving community agrees with me that I'm a rather experimental weaver, and I'm an innovative weaver, and that leads me to do some very, very different things when I'm at the loom than a traditionally trained weaver would do.
What about the e-textiles? What have you been doing with that, and how long have you been working with e-textiles?
I started getting stainless steel thread in 2004 from Japan, and I was weaving with that, not really knowing where it was going. And so that was 2004 and 5-ish. Around 2006, I heard about the lily pad and learned about that aspect of incorporating computers with it. And began taking my weaving in a different direction with electronics. So even now as we speak, there's so many more opportunities with different types of hardware. Squareware has come out, Tiny Twino's come out.
What's Squareware?
Squareware is this. It's a new computer chip that has come out.
Okay.
New little microcontroller board. Let's be accurate in our words.
Okay.
And so this incorporates a battery holder here.
Yep.
And it's got the on-off switch built right into the board. I haven't sat down and utilized it yet. It just came out in December. But I think this is going to change things pretty drastically. This is much less expensive than any of the other hardware, and it incorporates both a battery holder as well as a switch. Makey Makey, I think everybody knows. So now I can actually weave the fabric and turn it into a MIDI device.
Oh, that's really neat. Have you seen this new store called Grand Street?
Yes.
And so that's a store that's selling all independent electronics. I just saw it. It's based out of New York City, I believe. So that's very exciting. I don't see that they have a storefront, but if they do, I will hunt it down and visit. So have you been working primarily for yourself since 2004 or before that, or how long?
2002.
Wow. So
I know.
10 years. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah, you as an entrepreneur, you hobble things together and you do what you can, and you learn to love peanut butter and jelly and oatmeal.
Beans and rice.
Yeah, it's like going back to grad school.
Yeah.
But you're doing exactly what you want and how you want, and honestly, I don't think that I could have survived without my internet world, without everybody globally and able to talk with them at any hour of the day when I needed help or projects, and that's truly made this possible.
So what did you do initially when you first started in 2002? When you first decided, did you have a regular job that you left to work for yourself?
I was working in business development for a couple of different architecture firms, and I figured if I could sell a $25 million project, I could sell something of my own. And I struck out on my own, and it's not been easy. It's not for everybody. I do not encourage most people to do it. You definitely have to have a certain mindset. And I'll be honest, people do ask me how I'm able to do it, and part of it is I do not have children. If I had children, I'd choose a very different path.
Oh, that's very interesting. So you think if you had children, then you feel that you would probably go for the security of having a regular day job with health insurance and all of...
No, I'm not saying that. I'd still be out on my own, but I wouldn't be as risky as I am.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, you can't explain to the kids day after day that you can't have this. or you're going to eat oatmeal again for another meal. You can't put them in that situation. I think you need to provide them with the educational tools that will take them to the next level. So the sacrifices I might choose to make, I would not necessarily put upon someone else.
Do you have health insurance?
Yes.
Do you have good insurance?
Yes.
And you pay for it yourself, obviously, because you don't have a company that pays for it.
Yes, I do pay for it myself. I was fortunate because I broke out on my own so long ago that I have a policy of which I don't think I've been told nobody can really get.
How did you start financially? Did you get funding? Did you bootstrap? Did you have money?
I bootstrapped. You know, I bootstrapped. I was very smart at a certain point in time in my life, and I purchased my own property. I was very smart in my youth, and I purchased a piece of property which allowed me eventually to hit a point in time where I did not pay a lease and I didn't pay a mortgage. And if you don't have to support those payments, you're allowed a lot more risk-taking. You're allowed a lot more flexibility. I think it's incredibly important for people to be able to own their own space and allow themselves this freedom. And I'm very concerned about what's happening in America as far as land ownership. Land is the only thing that we only have so much of. The governments go and print more money. You can make more money somewhere else. There's a lot you can do. You can always develop a new piece of hardware. But your space, you can't get another space. Right. And I think that's one of the most important things for any startup to have. You got to have your own space, and it's got to be paid for.
A lot of people who start out on their own, perhaps not 10 years into it, but 1 year or 2 years into it, experience a lot of pushback from their parents and perhaps their friends that they went to grad school with or regular school with, who are saying, well, why are you living on beans and rice? Why do you not just get a regular job? Are the people around you, in general, supportive of what you do?
I was not raised in an environment of which was based upon commercialism. I wasn't raised by a family or a school system of which supported the product that you purchased. It was about how do you think, how do you interact with people, and how do you make the world a better place. And so for me to be out on my own was completely supported by my mother and my brother. They have always worked on projects for me, whether it's addressing envelopes or helping me understand how to write code in the middle of the night when I wake them up.
That's great.
Yeah, but this is the world I grew up in.
So you've had a pretty interesting educational background.
Yeah.
You did architecture.
I did my master's in architecture, yes.
And your bachelor's in neurophysiology?
Yes, my bachelor's, I did a double neurophys and physiological psychology at Smith College. So that most people would think of Smith as being very conventional. And when I was there were only 5 of us with that degree. And I was allowed to sit on the electron microscopes all night long, every single night, to the point where it became an art project. What I was doing was very artistic, and the professors, Richard Briggs and Richard Olivio, they were so supportive. It was like, hey, you're doing something, you're thinking something, you're learning something, and that's what we want to encourage is how do you begin to learn how to think.
How many different kinds of things do you do to make a living? I mean, I'm certainly familiar with a lot of the things because I love your work, so I look at it a lot online. But tell us all, like, what kinds of things do you do? I
stick primarily with textiles. In the past couple of years, I've started teaching a lot more. I never thought I would enjoy it as much as I do, but I've ended up really liking teaching, and so a lot of my gigs now, my money-making gigs, are actually doing lectures and teaching workshops.
What do you have upcoming? What kind of workshops have you booked for?
In March, I'll be teaching in Doha, Qatar, for a week. Mm-hmm. And that's a combination. It's the design conference where they bring in designers from all over the world, and there's 5 of us that'll be teaching a lab. So we'll make a project for the MAFTA Museum of Art in Doha, and then teaching also at the conference, which is another couple of days there. I'm going to stay in the Middle East for a couple more weeks and go rogue. And so I have friends in Dubai and Abu Dhabi and other places, and I'll go into those locations on my own and do some sort of rogue afternoon workshop and spread the love that way. So
you'll go to a hackerspace? Is that what you're thinking?
I'll teach on a street corner for all I care. Mm-hmm. It's the joy of watching somebody else's brain go, oh, I get it. I know how to do this. And I think with e-textiles and paper computing, because it is so simple. It's so simple. It's so fast. Anybody can do this. And it opens an entire door to technology and electronics of which they never thought could open to them.
So to get into print magazines, you have to hustle. You have to submit over and over and get rejected over and over. Uh-huh.
You hear no thank you a lot.
Yes. Do you submit a lot of stuff and hope that the odds are in your favor? Or are you very selective and only submit a couple of things per year?
When I submit to a competition or I submit to a magazine, I do my research ahead of time. I know who the editor is. I have a relationship. I look at who the jury is on a competition. I do a lot of research ahead of time within my industry before I submit something.
So I will close this interview asking, and I already know the answer to this. Okay. I ask everybody, are you happy with this choice?
Yes.
That you have made?
Totally. I would not be doing anything else. Which
is really great to hear. And
yeah.
That vibe emanates from you, Lynne.
I do. I got the best life in the world.